Musically meditated. Welcome to Musically Meditated Podcast. I'm your host, Joe Riley. I have Sretton Jovanovic with me, my co-host. What's up, Sretton?
What's up?
Yeah, here we are. We've been putting out a lot, within the last few weeks as far as episodes go. We've been killing it. I know that we're feeling very comfortable and moving forward. This is a happy birthday episode. I was online and came across a release that came out in 1996 by a band called Cryptopsy, and they're from Quebec, Canada. And it just, all of a sudden, I was like, I have to talk about this album because it's seriously, like, you'll see this stuff on Facebook, like the 10 albums that change your life, and like that's so extreme. But this is really one of them for me. It is, because it could take me back to a certain particular time, and then the band, as far as musicians, like it's the best technical death metal ever. And then they were able to blend elements of black metal, grindcore, just all over the place. And then like the lyrical content is basically like poetry. So, the album I'm talking about, by the way, is None So Vile. It came out, like I said, in 96, and the lineup was Lord Worm, who is the vocalist. And here's a cool thing about Lord Worm. Silly name. However, he is a professor in Canadian literature. I don't know what particular college it is, but he is an awesome writer, and the lyrics for this album are so poetic and so macabre and so dark. It's scary, but he just does a great job. Like, it's like, it really inspired me, like, as a young kid to start writing poetry. Like Lord Worm's lyrics on this album and J.R. Hayes from Pig Destroyer, Prowl in the Yard, like, it was a cool way to look at, vocals and lyrics from a death metal band, because you think it's all about, just killing and blood splatter and just all that nasty shit, but
the normal stuff they talk about.
Yeah, like people, it's very cliche, but no, this is about just, I don't know. There's
some thought into it, much more than just be as gross and violent as possible.
Yeah, really neat to put a poetic twist behind such intense music.
Yeah.
But then artistically, it's great poetry and it's great lyricism. So
you
it's just
talked about them when we first started the podcast, right?
Yeah.
For those first few episodes, I don't remember which one.
Not Cryptopsy, I don't think. Maybe like
I thought you talked about that guy that was the professor.
Probably.
Whose lyrics were, or maybe I'm mixing it. Maybe you were at the bookstore trying to tell people. About it.
That was probably a mention. But I know for sure I discussed this album on episode 17 with Keith Gough. Like, everybody, please go back and revisit that episode, especially all my extreme metalheads listening to this, because I broke down like my 5 favorite albums from death metal, black metal, grindcore, hardcore, so on and so forth, and so did Keith. So please go back to revisit that for sure. But None So Vile was definitely on there. Yeah, so...
do the other band members have just silly names?
No, Lord Worm has a real name. I don't know what it is right now, but here we go. Just a real quick thing. He left the band after this album, and he started to focus on his career as an English teacher. So maybe I said the wrong thing that he was teaching in college now, but yeah, he was like that deep, like really, really cool member of the band. And like back in the day, you'd have to find bootlegs, right? Like certain bootleg albums. But there was this dude named Bootleg Bill that I've also talked about on the podcast. And he
was a hobo that collected
records? No. He had his own record label.
Oh, okay,
and he was here in Hobart. So
sorry, man.
No, it's okay. So he had all these crazy, awesome bootleg VHS videos of any band you wanted, like for the most part. And I remember it was like this Cryptopsy one. He's like, you got to get this one. So the stage entrance for Lord Worm was this. They brought him in a coffin, and like they played this like crazy like, like church theater, like just like organs and whatever. So they brought him in a coffin, and they put him on stage, and the whole band, they take him out or whatever, and then he grabs like a holy grail. Or no, for communion, what is that called? I don't know what that's called.
Chalice?
Yeah, chalice. Yeah, we are.
Terrible
I'm a bad
Christians.
Catholic. I do go to mass. Shout out to all the Catholics out there. I'm not satanic.
Send us an email. Let us know what those objects.
I forget
of
what they're
worship are.
called, but they didn't have the wafers in there. They had worms in there for Mr. Lord Worm, and he would eat them on stage. So that's awesome. That's pretty metal.
That's cool.
So I could probably just do a whole episode on Lord Worm, but
Did they always do theatrical stuff like that, intense stuff like that, or
only when he was a part of it. Like, he was the best part of Cryptopsy because he was on their first album too, it's called Blasphemy Made Flesh, and that came out in 93 or 95, and his vocals on that were really crazy. Almost, I don't even know, like, it was gibberish, like death metal gibberish, but in a great way. But when you read the lyrics, it was like, man, this is some crazy Shakespearean gibberish. So what he would do is like just pronounce, like, I don't know, syllables, but like in a scream weird way. Like, it just made a huge impression on me. But then going back to None So Vile, he switched it up, and all of his stuff has this, like, I've never heard another death metal vocalist do this, but it sounds like a hollow pit, like from the bottom of your bowels, like not Cookie Monster all the way, but like just intense.
Yeah.
But like just eerie and haunting.
You could hear the words this time, or was it still like gibberish?
It's still death metal.
Okay.
You have to bring out the lyric book and read along with it.
Since they're from Quebec,
yeah.
Are there songs in English as far as you know?
Yeah, all the lyrics are in English.
Okay.
I don't know.
If they did
No, that's a good question. I don't know, like, if you go to Quebec and it's all printed in Quebec or French I should say Quebec. My bad. It probably is, but I think with all these extreme bands, the American market is so huge, and that's the most commercial place to go. So you better transform that into some English.
Yeah.
Into some English, but None So Vile. Moving on to like the music aspect of it, they have this drummer, and his name is Flo Manoir. I hope I'm saying that right, because I
don't mean to laugh. My name is Stetson. Sorry.
Right, but they're French Canadian, and Mr. Flo Manoir is arguably like the best death metal extreme drummer. He has his own tutorials. He's the man. And he actually does some backup vocals on the first on Blasphemy Made Flesh and None So Vile, like a lot of the high pitched stuff. But going back to those old school bootleg VHSs that we would get, a lot of them would just sit on Flo and just watch him because he was that amazing as a drummer. And I had a few friends too that like were getting into the death metal scene, but really copying his style. But it's a great thing to copy because he's just all over the place. So shout out to Flo. He's one of the best, if not the best. And if you have your own videos, to show people how to drum, you're probably pretty good.
You know who has videos on showing people how to drum? The drummer from Dave Matthews.
Oh, well, he's awesome.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
I just had to bring that in before.
Yeah, no, that's
Morrissey.
Okay. I forget his name off the top of my head, but
my brain's not working. Carter
Buford. Yeah, I mean that. Everybody knows. He's
80% sure.
Yeah, he's just the man. He is. But different styles here.
Oh, totally. Yeah,
totally different styles. Like Flo's the best at like the extreme death metal drumming.
And I'm an idiot. I didn't know what do you call it again? Tell me again.
The double bass.
The double bass. I didn't know that was a thing. I just thought these dudes that were doing this were just that fast. So before I found that out, I was blown away. But then through your influence, I started getting into some of it, and I realized the precision and timing that these guys got to drum at. Like, you have to go super fast. I think I was telling you about it. It's like sprinting up to a line, and then if you cross that line, like you like, let's say you like blow out an ankle or something. Yeah. That's what it is. Like, these dudes just stop, and then they completely change the tempo and go back to that fast thing again. It's super impressive.
Right. Yeah,
thanks, Joe.
No, you're for sure.
Yeah, like it's really cool.
Flo is the guy that does that. Like his double bass is sick, but his precision, but his chaos, like it's together. Like he blends it together so well. Like I remember, especially with Flo, he would just ride on the China, like the China crash, like that's before its time. Or I've never even like actually heard that done before, but like the real crazy chaotic parts of extreme metal, like he threw that in there, and it's like like it pumps you up. It totally pumps you up. So, all right, let me transition into a little history about this. It's ironic, too, because it's exactly 6 months to my great late best friend, Ricky Pontney, passed away this year. And we were both into the death metal thing. I was kind of just keeping it contemporary, you know, like my Cannibal Corpse, and I love Corpse, but just keeping it cool, not really branching out that far. But Ricky had None So Vile out of nowhere. Like, I don't know how it happened, but he had that album, and I just remember this particular summer, that's all we listened to. Like, the whole time, and like we both had like 92 Toyota Corollas. I think he had a 91. He called his the Blood Clot. I call mine the Chode Rocket. But at any rate, we would just blare this album, and we had decent sound systems. And if no one's ever listened to this, like, just go ahead and blare that down the streets, you know, like, and just see what kind of response you'll get, because everybody would just
get a lot of people yelling, "Turn that down!"
Or just
I can't hear myself.
They're scared. I don't know.
Or headbanging with you,
right? But yeah, Ricky was the one to really throw Cryptopsy at me, and Ricky was always into poetry as well. So he was just like, no, like, check out these lyrics, because at first it was a really hard pill to swallow. Like, Cryptopsy's extreme. It's extreme death metal. There's no way around it. Okay, so it was a lot for me to take in. And then, like I said, with Lord Worm's vocals, I was used to the Cookie Monster stuff, like the real growly, but like he sounds like a wolf bellowing it out, but like in a deep way. So I didn't really like the vocals either at the time, but Ricky's like, no, check it out, and then listen to the drums, and here's the vocals, because we would do things like that back then. Like, we would really study it, you know, like every aspect of it. So another thing too, the guitar work is amazing by John Levasseur. He's not a member anymore. I always thought this was pretty interesting. He had a Fender Stratocaster, which you never saw with metal back then. Like, everybody had something big and black, and so on and so forth. So yeah, with John Levasseur, I'm trying to do this the best I can. He's the man. And like, it was really crazy when he would use an old Fender. I remember, like, back in the day, you could cut out like a Hit Parader magazine, and there were certain death metal magazines too back then. I think it was like Pit, you know, like he had his own little photo shoot or whatever, and he had this like really dark green Fender Strat with a white pick guard, and it just blew me away. And you could tell like the strings were very, very thick for the lower tuning that Cryptopsy's involved.
So educate me real quick. Why is it a big deal to use was it a big deal to use the Fender?
To me it was, because it's not like a heavy metal guitar. I mean, you could trick out like a guitar any way you want to sound a certain particular way, right? But with death metal, it was always like a gaudy, you know, BC Rich, or
that was my question.
Yeah, like a mainly BC Rich guitar, like something just crazy and edgy looking. And here he is on this, you know, American-made Stratocaster from God knows when. Like, I don't know. It really just like, whoa, that's awesome.
Yeah. Wasn't
expecting that. But yeah, shout out to John Levasseur. He unfortunately left the band. What year was it? In like 2011, 2012, and he was their main guitarist. And I know there's some Cryptopsy fanboys and ladies out there, but ever since John left, it hasn't been the same, you know. But his impact on this particular album is very noticeable. I'll move on to the bass player for this album, and I was just starting to play bass guitar, and for a bass guitar to really stick through on a death metal album is huge. I mean, the best bass guitarist in the death metal, extreme metal scene, for sure. I mean, this is my opinion, but I don't think I would get a lot of slack for this, but it's Alex Webster from Cannibal Corpse. You know, he's the man. But you couldn't always pick out his bass, but he did his damnedest to stick out, or the producer did. The producer was able to, but with Mr. Eric Langlois, that's the same thing. Like, the bass is there throughout the chaos, but whoever produced this did a great job on just his there's a couple primacy parts, you know, like a little clinkety clank, and backtracking to Blasphemy Made Flesh, that was a different bass player. His name was Martin Ferguson. Cryptopsy wasn't scared to just make the bass player that dude in the back, you know, just doing that thick rhythm. They were able to, hey, turn up that chorus, turn up that treble a little bit, let that instrument shine, you know, like, it's not all just about you know, filling in that thickness, that gravy, for the chaos during a death metal song. And Langlois, he really shines out. And this is crazy because I remember too, he had a custom made carven bass. I believe they're American, but it was just an all white bass too, like a P bass, and that was just different for death metal too. Like, and they had like a Jackson headstock, and that's just how much this band meant to me at the time, and like how musically they just stood out. Like they just inspired me on so many different levels. Yeah, you know. Your typical bass player in a death metal band would have something black. The treble would not be turned up, but his skill, not to deny his skill, like Langlois, when he joined, you could tell they're like, hey, you please help us write. Like this dude's badass bass player, like just amazing. So that's what I'm going to get at with all of the particular musicians in the group at that time. Flo is the man, the drummer for sure. Miguel, no, it wasn't Miguel Roy, was it? No. Yeah, Steve Thibault, was that? No, excuse me, I'm sorry. Miguel Roy was a part of this album, None So Vile, and he was there after the fact too, like None So Whisper and so on and so forth. But he took over being the lead guitarist when Levasseur left. So I got to give Miguel. It's probably not Roy. It's probably Wah.
Maybe.
Sorry.
I don't know. Yeah.
All the French Canadians, don't hate me. I love the Nordiques. All right. I wish they would have never moved to Colorado. But I do want to transition now into my own personal experience with this album, and it was in a live setting. And you kind of forget about what concerts were the best concerts you ever been to. I've been to so many.
Right.
And death metal is usually a show. Like it is a concert, but it is at the end of the day, a show. And
like, you mean theatrics?
Theatrics, yeah. But just like how many people are there too.
Yeah.
There's a concert and then there's a show.
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
I don't know where the cutoff of how many people in the building it would be, but you know what I'm saying? Like playing a huge place like the United Center in Chicago compared to playing the Metro,
Right.
A show's at the Metro, a concert's at the United Center.
Yeah.
If
I don't know how I do that either. I think I agree with you exactly. United Center concert, but my mouth just says concert or show. Sometimes I've said United Center shows. I guess it also depends on a band.
Okay.
It feels weird for certain bands to say I went to
Cryptopsy. Cryptopsy is not gonna play at the United Center where the Bulls play in Chicago.
Yeah.
They're gonna play at a smaller joint, which was usually the House of Blues, where I saw this show that I'm about to talk about.
Place.
Yeah, great place because it's small and intimate. But I'm pretty sure it was the House of Blues. All the music nerds out there, especially people that I know that were at this show with me, it was either the Metro or the House of Blues. So as far as the specifics go, and the year too was 0506. But here's the thing. Lord Worm came back, like I was talking about earlier, and they did None So Vile in its entirety. And it was just the coolest thing. Like when bands do that, it's somewhat gimmicky, but like to get those old heads back into the flow. And like I said, this is in my top 3 favorite death metal albums of all time. It's in my top 10 most influential musical albums of all time. So for me to be able to see it in its entirety was just mind blowing. And then the fact that Lord Worm came back after he took a straight up hiatus for over a decade, if not more, and then here's the man himself, the Jim Morrison of death metal, the poet that he is. He has this other thing too, just a quick shout out. It's called Rage Nuclear, and there's like drum machines, and it's kind of got maybe a techno vibe, but it's Lord Worm's newer project. So Rage Nuclear is the shit. So for all my Cryptopsy people out there, please go back and revisit. But this particular show with Lord Worm back, not only did they play all of None So Vile in its entirety, they finished with a song called Mutant Christ, and Mutant Christ was on Blasphemy Made Flesh, I believe. Don't quote me on that, but it was on their first EP called Ungentle Exhumantation.
I'd have to see it and try to say it.
Yeah.
I think you got it.
Ungentle Exhumantation. Okay. And the opening riff for that, played by a guitarist named Steve Thibault, I just wasn't expecting that to be like the next transition after one of my most favorite albums. It was a track that was one of my most favorite from the one before, but they did finish with a track called White Worms, which is on the album called Whisper Supremacy, where Lord Worm stopped being a vocalist and he let this dude named DeSalvo come in, and he had more of a hardcore approach, like hardcore.
Yeah.
And but on White Worms, Lord Worm, I believe, was the writer of the entire song, if not the lyrics, but don't quote me on that either. But he had a small little part, and he came in. It was like a cameo, you know, like after he's like, hey, here's your new singer, guys, good luck. Like he just had this real quick little Lord Worm part, and they finished with that. So it was just the shit.
That's cool.
It was just the shit.
I like all that, like history or the way. I like that. Sorry.
No, yeah. So Mutant Christ was off of Blasphemy Made Flesh, and
those fucking names.
I know. Yeah, and to go back to the None So Vile album cover, I don't know who the artist is. I mean, I'm artsy fartsy to a certain point, but it's John the Baptist's head on a platter, because you know that did happen according to the Bible.
Yeah.
So that's quite the statement.
It's intense.
Very intense. So, yeah, man, I love this album. I'm glad that it just popped up. Like I didn't know that it was the actual birthday, but like I said, to transition, like I noticed that, and then I wanted to lift some weights, and I put it in, and all these emotions started coming. And this isn't like your Sade or Morrissey, I'm Lonely moment. It's like, oh man, it brought me back to this time, but it was perfect music too to like really put out some weight and to like express the emotions that I was feeling. And a lot of it had to do with, like I said, my homie Ricky Pontney, rest in power, and then my other friend, my best friend, Mike Paris, because, you know, it brought me back to that 1999 or 98, whatever it was, where we were just hanging out and just blaring this shit. And like we would be in the same workout area that I was at, you know, like my parents have a gym in their basement, and I would hit punching bags with these dudes, you know, like my best friends. I would lift weights with them. And then like it came on, and I was just like, man, I have to talk about this album today, because it was really important to me. And then it is still now, you know, like it's a hard one to top. You know, it's not something you're going to listen to every day, but perfect situation, perfect moment. Like, you know, it's not like I'm going to put this in and reflect about my friends that have passed, but like it all came together. So, right. You know, transitioning into, let's do this. Let's transition into this part we call hate mail, because we do get hate mail. Let's do that.
Hate mail.
We get hate mail, and then I'll get back into my own personal feel of this album with my homies that have passed.
This one's.
Is it mean? Am I going to be a millennial here? Am I going to ask for their names? Am I going to?
He left his name.
Really?
Yeah.
Am I going to file charges?
No.
Am I going to cry?
It's actually it's actually sort of funny. Sort of. We'll see. We'll see what you think. I actually think all of these are funny. But people are getting some kind of hint, which don't know if it's good or bad, but whatever. All right. Are you ready? Dear Joe, also forgive me for my reading skills. Dear Joe and whoever else is in the studio, probably Sartang.
That's kind of mean.
I really like the show, but I have a couple of things I wanted to ask and share. First, you did a hip-hop show a few eps back, and Sartang blamed his speech on tequila. That's not fair to tequila. Sartang needs to admit he's just really damn boring.
Wow.
Joe.
What did I do wrong?
Talk more. Sartang, talk less. Oh, yeah. I love the hate mail segment. Yeah, this is what I was talking about. Yes, this is hate mail, and here I go. I heard Morrissey has Cure posters all over his room.
Uh-oh.
I also heard Glenn Danzig and Hillary Clinton have the same pantsuit tailor.
Are they leather chaps? Assless leather chaps there?
I heard Misfits was originally spelled MISS Fits. Is that true?
What? Like a Nazi thing?
Oh, no. Like Miss, like Miss, Mr. and Miss and Mrs. A Nazi thing. How do you feel about that? Do you hate it? I think it's all true. Last two. Sartang, it's double bass. Double motherfucking bass. Please memorize it, write it down, tattoo the inside of your eyelids. But damn, man, memorize and learn the term double bass. Last one. Sometimes, Joe, your voice is so low and strained you sound constipated. I recommend more broccoli. pumpkin pie and water, and less PBR and fried peanut butter and banana sandwiches. Elvis died 40 years ago. Eat an apple, you asshole.
No, hey, for the record, all right, I did my vegetarian thing for a second. I'm going to go back on it, but I do like peanut butter on a burger. I have a lot of love for Elvis, and I'm feeling kind of sensitive. I'm feeling like a millennial.
Do you want me to read that last part again?
Yeah.
I recommend more
assholes.
broccoli, pumpkin pie and water, and less PBR and fried peanut butter and banana sandwiches. Elvis died 40 years ago. Eat an apple, you asshole. Love the show. Got all my friends listening. Thanks for reading this. Adios, Sam from San Bernardino. San Bernardino.
What up, Sammy?
I don't know where the hell. That's California, right?
Yeah.
I'm stupid. We actually have quite a few people that listen. I wanna say like half our listenership is California.
That's cool.
It is cool.
What up, Cali?
It's cool. So that's
so for all you Cali listeners, I'm willing to come stay at your place.
Me too.
I've never
been out there.
I've never been out there.
Don't be stingy, California.
Don't be stingy, Cali. Like, what's up? Let me come. Let me hang out.
Yeah.
Do all that shit.
Oh, I lied. I was in California like 3 years ago.
Oh, well, look at you.
But up north.
Look at you. All right. So here what we're going to do. We always close with meditate on this. And I mentioned some of my friends that have passed away. And we're going to dedicate this episode to Ricky Pontney because a lot of people will be like, oh, what's the like, not the sad song, but what was a sad song for him? And, like that real mushy shit.
Yeah.
That wasn't his personality at all. He would really, I know for a fact, like, he would love the fact that None So Vile and his name in this story came out. He didn't pull any punches. Like, he loved this album and he was the one that showed it to me. So we're going to close with meditate on this. And what Ricky showed me about 4 years ago is a book called The Four Agreements. And I don't remember the dude's name.
I don't either. I just sold one out of the bookstore.
That wrote this book.
We have a copy. Yeah.
No disrespect to any other religious sect, but it beats the 10 Commandments to hell because you could put this on your, put it on a Post-it mark at your office or on your fridge and just kind of, every day remind yourself this. So I'm going to start, all right? So the first one is be impeccable with your word. Speak with integrity. Say what you mean. Avoid using the word to speak against yourself and gossip about others. Use the power of your word in the direction of truth and love. So that's the first one. So be impeccable with your word. If you tell someone you're going to be somewhere, show up. If you say you're going to be here, you're going to do this, do it, right? So that's the first one. Second one, don't make assumptions. Find the courage to ask questions and express what you really want. Communicate with others as clearly as you can and try to avoid the misunderstandings, the sadness, and the drama. We just want one agreement, and we can completely transform our lives without making assumptions. So don't make assumptions, right? The third one, and this is a hard one, don't take anything personally. Nothing others, What? Wait, what'd you say? Don't take anything personally. Nothing others do is because of you. Stop being so freaking selfish, right? What others say and do is a projection of their own reality and their own dream. So, when you really fester over other people's opinions, don't worry about that. Just judge them on their actions and, just stop playing the victim.
What did we say a couple episodes ago that you and I both have? Oh, no, it was rejection fetish.
Rejection fetish. Yeah, that could be the fifth agreement. Don't be into rejection fetish. Right? All right, now here's the fourth one. Always do your best. Very cliche, but, your best is going to change the moment to the next moment. It'll be the difference. How could I put this? Like under any circumstance, just do your best and it'll be the difference to, not self-judge yourself or abuse, am I making sense?
Can I take over?
Yeah.
Well, you try to be consistent with how you attack the world every single day, but there's a lot of times and a lot of days where you're just not feeling it. You get up in the morning, either you're sick, you didn't get enough sleep, for whatever reason. Like, just do your best. Do your best on the days that you feel
like
awesome.
Shit. It's so hard to.
And you might get a bunch of stuff done, and do your best on the days that you feel shitty. You might not get anywhere close to as much stuff done, but at least you did your best.
Yeah, like
you turn around and you be shitty to somebody because you feel shitty. Like that's not cool.
Yeah, just like under any any circumstance, just do your best, man.
Yeah.
Avoid self-judgment, self-abuse, regret, all that shit. Like, just do what you can. It's so easy to say because we all wake up on the wrong side of the bed on a particular day. But, you know, those are the 4 agreements. So,
like me this morning, reading that dick, writing my name as Sartang.
I like that new nickname.
I don't.
We got Sartang and Bonanza, your brother.
Oh, yeah, me and my brother,
What up,
Sartang and
Boyan?
Bonanza.
The Serbian tribe of the lost.
Serbian tribe of butchered names. Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are good. 4 agreements are good.
4 agreements are good. But meditate on this. That was the first part. So shout out to Ricky because he showed me that. But this is what I have to say. We can't choose where we came from, okay? But we can certainly choose where we're going. Let's make sure our direction is fueled by positivity. So you can't change what you were in the past. But you know what? We can change tomorrow. So just make sure you're having that PMA, that positive mental attitude, and just take over the world. Just be fueled by that positivity. Even on those bad days, always do your best.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Cliche as it is. But everyone, Musically Meditated is on all podcast platforms. We're on Spotify. That's a big deal. We're on YouTube. We have videos coming up on the YouTube channel. That group page on Facebook is blowing up. So check that out. It's called Musically Meditated Podcast Listeners. There's the Facebook page.
I do, in particular, have one piece of homework for anybody that hears this. And a lot of you have already done this. Please, 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 please. If you listen, just tell one person. Show them how to put it on their phone. I know that's a big deal.
It's a big step.
I know that's maybe, you might see some photographs on their phone and you don't want to. Don't go into their photos area. Go into their podcast area. If you show somebody and they have an iPhone, go to the iTunes podcast app, look up Musically Meditated, hit subscribe, have that person just listen. If they don't like it, they don't like it. But
go on YouTube, do the same thing.
Go on YouTube, do the same thing. Also, if you have an Android phone, the Google podcast app that just started a few weeks ago is also just as easy as the iTunes app. So now if you have if you have an Android phone, did I say that or did I say something else? I meant to say if you have an Android phone, use the Google podcast app. That's all I'm asking. Just tell one person if you can. And thank you so much.
No, you're going to. It's not if you can. You're going to.
You are going to.
You're going to do it. We're telling you. We're being very abrasive. But yeah, thank you for listening. We love you. We'll see you next week. Adios. I'm Musically Meditated.
That's right.
I'm musically meditated. That's right. I'm musically meditated.
Producer my ass over there.